in our beautiful new garden. We'll start as usual with a question that's come in advance, and then open it up to any questions that anyone has. Yeah, I think वो ज़्यादा हो रहा है और थोड़ा सा तूफान की तरह ना लग रहा है. कुछ पीछे भी काफी शॉर्ट कर रहे हैं ना, पीछे वाला. जो आवाज नहीं करते हैं, जो आवाज नहीं करते वही चला के रहो. जो तूफान वाला बंद कर लीजिएगा. What is the one quality that would be the greatest blessing to receive? Vinod ko bata lijiyega. What is the one quality that would be the greatest blessing? The one quality that I think is the most important, whether it's something we receive by blessing or something we cultivate, is surrender. Because all of the suffering that we experience and the suffering that we bring on to others is because we are so stuck and so attached that we're not able to quit. Well, yeah, I think. Just one sec. My mic seems to be on and off, on and off. Hang on. So, I think the one most important quality is surrender. Because surrender enables us to actually let go so that we can experience the flow of the universe. Think about being in a boat, and you're rowing your boat, and you're rowing and you're rowing and you're rowing with all of your energy and all of your time and all of your resources and everything you've got to get that boat to go in the direction you want it to go. And you open your eyes after some time and you realize you're in exactly the same spot that you were before. And you realize that the reason you're not getting anywhere is the boat is actually tied to the shore. So no matter how much you row, no matter how much energy you expend, how much effort, you can't actually go anywhere, get anywhere, because you're tied to the shore. And that's how so many of our lives sadly go. We're stuck. We're stuck. We're stuck with these cords of what we want, how we want it, when we want it, the vision that we have of how things should be, how other people should act, how the universe should be. That ego, that attachment keeps us stuck. Surrender is to untie yourself. Surrender is to say there is a flow in the universe, like there is a flow in the river. And in order to get anywhere, I have to untie myself from the shore and align myself with the flow of the river. So for me, on a personal note, I have found that my peace, my joy, my freedom, my life is the most stuck when I don't surrender. Is the most stuck when I'm literally attached with these karmic cords of tension to how I think things should be, or to a vision that I have of who I think I am, some false identity. And so I would put surrender number one. But then, of course, in order to even know you need to surrender, in order to even know you're stuck, in order to know how to untie the cord, we need wisdom. We need gyan. So, maybe gyan above surrender, because gyan would be that which would teach us that we need to surrender. So they go together, they're not separate. That knowledge, that wisdom, that truth that shows us, look where you are stuck. Look at these cords that are holding you. You know, one of my favorite truisms about life is, if you and I are each holding on to different ends of a cord, there's tension between us, we're pulling. It doesn't actually require both of us to let go for all of the tension in that cord to dissipate. Only one person has to let go, and 100% of the tension is over. So gyan is that which doesn't wait for the other guy to let go. Gyan is that doesn't wait for he should say sorry first. Why doesn't she do it? Why do I have to do it? When are they going to make it up to me? Gyan is that says, I am karmically stuck with this cord that is attaching me to this other person, to this other act, to this thing that happened or I want to happen, to this conflict. And all of that tension in the cord is because I'm pulling on it. Can't blame anyone else. If I simply let go, samne wale jo bhi karenge, it doesn't matter what someone else does. By me letting go, all of the tension in the cord is gone. So gyan or wisdom, and then surrender, I think are the two most powerful, perhaps, and I'm sure if we sit here all night I'll keep thinking of more, but really powerful virtues that most of us don't have, that if we had, we'd be so much happier. We'd be so much more peaceful. And the beautiful thing about surrender is, a lot of us think that surrender means I'm giving up. that I'm just giving up. I don't have it in me. I can't do it. I can't handle it. Forget it. Surrender is not giving up. It's not giving in. It's not conceding. It's none of those things. Surrender is simply saying there is a flow of the universe. And for me to try to row and row and row and use all of my life while I am stuck to the shore, attached to the shore, is nothing but a colossal waste of time and energy. That's all surrender is. It doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you strong. Because those who can't let go are the ones who are weak. The strength is in knowing wherever that river of life is going, if I can go with it, then I'm really going to be in line with my Dharma. Then I'm not metaphorically rowing my boat upstream and getting nowhere. So it's that strength and that wisdom to actually be able to see and then to let go. And then, of course, we've got the power of the flow of the river of life to flow through us and take us where we need to go. Questions? Yes.
So my question is, for all the good act or work that we are doing, for let's say chanting Lord's name or helping someone else, when we get its fruit, because I see in college my fellow mates or my fellow classmates are not into spiritual things, but then also they are also into the good college where I am. They're also scoring good academic marks. So I don't see any difference between them and me, or let's say between them and anybody else.
You don't see any difference in what way?
In materialistic way.
Okay, absolutely true. Meaning, from a materialistic standpoint, well, he asked, let me just reframe his question, but let's make sure I got it right. He asked, in college, I'm chanting, I'm doing spiritual things, I'm taking God's name, I'm engaged in all of these spiritual activities. But I have friends who are engaged in no spiritual activities at all. They're just doing good academics. And I can't see the difference from a materialistic perspective in terms of the fruits that I'm getting and the fruits that they're getting. Yeah, hey, है ना question आपका? Hang on, take the mic. Second part.
We get its fruit in this lifetime or in the next birth.
Okay. So we'll take the first part first and the second part second. The fruits that we get from what we do are not always apparent in the material world. It's not, I close my eyes, I meditate, I take God's name, I open my eyes and there's a mound of money in front of me. Or I close my eyes, I do my japa, and I open my eyes and somehow my home has gone from being a shack to being a palace. And where I had a bicycle outside, now I've got a Mercedes outside. Right? There's no teaching, there's no aspect of our teaching that says take God's name, pray, chant, meditate. and you'll have a really expensive car, or you'll have a fancy home, or you're going to get straight A's on your exams. There's nothing like that. What it says is, take God's name, do your meditation, do your chanting, be a spiritual person, and your life will be peaceful. Your life will be joyful. Your life will be meaningful. That's the bottom line. It's not about chant a mantra and you will get, a magic wand to get whatever you want, or a genie in a bottle and you get 3 wishes. Spirituality is not about manifesting material things. It's about actually understanding the whole point of why we are here on planet Earth. If somebody is dedicated simply to their academic work, and they put a lot of time and energy into it, and unme thoda sa dam bhi ho, so naturally they're going to end up with good grades in school. Whether they're spiritual people or not spiritual people. If somebody is focused only on making money, that's their only goal, morning to night, all they do is figure out ways to make money. Honest ways, dishonest ways, harmful ways, non-harmful ways, whatever they possibly can do. Earn it, steal it, counterfeit it, whatever they need to do. They are prepared to do it. Well, chances are, eventually, that person's going to end up with money. Because if you put that much time and energy into something, it's very likely to bear some kind of fruit for you. But then what do you have? So you've got good grades, or so you've got a lot of money, but then what? These things don't bring happiness in life. And I say this to you as someone who was a straight A student, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't let yourself think, चलो उनको पता नहीं है कि क्या होता है. मुझे अच्छी तरह से पता है. I was in college at Stanford University, where I got straight A's. So I know exactly what it's like to do well academically. And I can guarantee you, because I have my own personal experience, and I have the experience of everybody I went to college with, there is zero connection between the grades you get and your level of deep happiness. Now, on a superficial level, yes, there is, because the ego loves to excel, loves to do well. It hurts when we don't, especially if we've got a family or a culture that's expecting us to do well, and we get love when we do well, and we get disappointment and disdain or even punishment when we don't. Well, then of course, yeah, I'm going to be a lot happier when I do well, because then I get love. But it's not the actual act of doing well that's making me happy, it's the love that's making me happy. If I got just as much love every time I failed an exam as I did every time I got an A, you wouldn't have students committing suicide. If there was just as much nourishing and nurturing and love and honoring for students who were struggling as for students who were succeeding, we would be able to prevent our beautiful youth from jumping from the 8th floor of their hostel. So, on a core level, grades don't bring happiness. Money doesn't bring happiness. Success on that level doesn't bring happiness. Spirituality is that which brings happiness. So if you're measuring only on a materialistic level, then yeah, you're not going to necessarily see any big difference. You get good grades if you study, they get good grades if they study, end of the day. But if you look at a situation where you all study really hard for an exam, but the teacher, for whatever reason, asks questions on the exam that no one prepared for. Maybe galti se, or maybe she was purposely trying to be really mean. Who knows? But at the end of the day, everybody fails. Now, your spiritual connection is going to keep you much more anchored and grounded and stable. Whereas other people may say, oh my God, I can't believe it. They're furious, they're angry. They go out and get drunk. They beat something, they do something, they smash up a car. Spirituality keeps us anchored and grounded. Because we know who we are. We know I'm not my grades. And so as you move through your life, you need to start looking at things not from the material way. If you're looking to measure fruits of karma, don't look for, I do my chanting, therefore I should be the top student in the class. Therefore, God should give me an A on an exam that I didn't even study for. It's not how it works. I do my chanting. And so who I am, the very temple of me, is being built brick by brick by brick. With my sanskaras, with my impressions, with my culture, with my spiritual connection. And it's a very strong temple that's being built. So that later in life, when earthquakes come and storms come, that temple of you that has been built with these strong bricks of divine connection, of spiritual practice, it stays strong. Things that are built without that collapse when there's a storm, trouble, turbulence in life. So measure how people are dealing with difficulty. How do they deal with struggle? How do they deal with loss? What's their idea of a good time? Do they need some kind of chemical substance to enjoy themselves? Right? We see this a lot in college. People who, in order to have a good time, need to chemically alter their brains. Well, that means that they're not actually happy. If I can't feel happy on Friday night, Saturday night, whenever it may be, without chemically altering my brain, you can be pretty sure that that person is not actually happy. That's the power of your spiritual work. Keeps you happy, keeps you peaceful, keeps you joyful, without needing the grades or the chemical intoxication. Yeah, of course, you still do your best, you work sincerely, because that's your responsibility. We say, apne kartavya. That's your responsibility. But the temple of you doesn't get shaken when things go up and down in life. And those are the fruits of your spiritual practice. Now, in terms of when things bear fruit, well, as we were talking just either last night or the night before, there's 3 different types of karma. And I won't go into the whole lengthy philosophical aspect of it, but you can think of it as long-term karma that which takes lifetimes to bear fruit. You know, certain seeds you plant and you'll end up with a fruit or a vegetable in just a few weeks. Plant a broccoli seed, you'll get a broccoli in 3, 4, 5 weeks. Plant a peach seed. It's going to take years before you actually end up with a juicy peach on the end of a tree. So in the same way, different karmic seeds take different amounts of time to blossom and to give fruit. Some take lifetimes. Some bear fruit in this very lifetime. Some bear fruit immediately. So where we are in every moment is a mix, a beautiful woven tapestry of all of the different karmas from our past. All of the long-term karmas, all of the medium-term karmas, and all of the immediate karmas. So they're all constantly bearing fruit. Sometimes they bear fruit a couple of times. Study really hard for an exam. Well, it can bear fruit tomorrow morning by getting you an A. But it also can bear fruit 3 years from now, when because your grades were so good, you get the job you wanted. And then because you got the job you wanted, right, it can keep bearing fruit. So it's also not that each karmic action only bears fruit once. Some of them keep bearing fruit. But don't worry about that. You don't need to put up some kind of, calendar thing on your wall of what's bearing fruit when, like you're a gardener, because we don't actually know. I mean, some of it we know. If I take this glass of water and I pour some of it on me, well, the action of pouring it gave me an immediate result. Now my clothes are wet. I knew that was going to happen. Could have told you that. But most of the karmas that we do, we don't actually know when they're going to bear fruit. And so don't worry about that. Just know that they will bear fruit. If not today, if not tomorrow, sometime in the future. But it's going to bear fruit for sure. And that's the most important thing. Okay? Beautiful. You're on a right track. And beautiful for being at this young stage of life and having these questions. Other questions?
माँ शारदा, ओम नमः शांति, ओम नमः शांति। आपको मैं प्रणाम कर रहा हूँ। My name is Mahendra Prasad Sharma from Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal. We are already in the WhatsApp group also, and I am a journalist actually. And my ideology is totally Gandhiji, and my wife today gave you that cotton mala also to you. My question is this thing: I have two daughters. Both are. She's in Reuters, and other is in Scotland doing international law and energy. After my struggle, my life, I have given a very good education to her. But the ideology is totally changed. They are totally different. My father, my mother and daughters, such a situation has been created. I can't understand what is the wrong I have did in my life after giving such a better education to her. And they are misguided.
So
this is my question actually. Sorry, yeah.
No,
thank you. Thank you very much.
Nothing to be sorry about at all. I think you're in a situation that a lot of people are in, where we wonder, I gave so much to my child, gave them this great education, gave them so much. But now they're misguided. Now they're living their life in a way that is not in alignment with how I would have wanted them to live, not in alignment with the values, the ethics of my parents, of me. So, remember we were talking about seeds and seeds bearing fruit. So, as parents, we plant seeds of our children. We plant them in soil that's as beautiful as it can be. That soil is you and your wife. Your parents, that soil that your children got from their parents, their grandparents. You water them. You shine the sun on them. You keep educating them. You give them culture. You give them sanskaras. But ultimately, actually what that seed is going to become is not up to you. They've come into this world with that karmic package, with that seed. I could stand over a peach seed all day long, chanting mantras of apples, saying apple prayers and doing apple dances, and I could keep showing it pictures of apples. I could dress up like an apple. I could do everything that is apple. But at the end of the day, that seed's never going to give me apples. The best it's going to give me is peaches, because it's a peach seed. And we have to remember that as parents, is that our duty is not to turn peach seeds into apple seeds. They're here with whatever karmic package they've come into this world with. Your daughter's living in Scotland. It sounds like she's made quite a life for herself. It's just not what you would have wanted. In your eyes, it's misguided, but I'm sure if she were sitting here and I said to her, so, would you like some assistance with being misguided? She would say, well, I'm not misguided. In her mind, according to her karmic package, karmic journey, she's on the right path. And it's really difficult as parents, of course, because we've given time and energy, resources, our lives. And to not have an agenda for how this seed is going to turn out, it's almost impossible, but that's actually what your responsibility is. And it's a beautiful challenge for you. Can you love her and respect her and accept her anyway, even though she's walking a very different path? Even though you think she's completely misguided, can you love her anyway? Can you honor her anyway? Can you support her anyway? Your days of molding her are long since over. You're not going to mold her anymore. These are the days where you really only have two choices. Either to learn to support her, learn to love her. That's what unconditional love means. Is whatever choices you make, whether it's the choices I would have wanted for you or not, I'm here anyway for you. I'm your dad. I'll always be there. Whether I agree with what you do or not. I remember when I decided to move to India. Now you imagine, I was 25. I had a degree from Stanford. I was in the middle of a PhD. from a Jewish family in Los Angeles. Had gone off to India on a very short, was meant to be short, backpacking trip. And suddenly I tell my parents, I'm moving to India. I'm going to live in an ashram. Imagine. Now, it took my mom a long time, as you can imagine, to become okay about this. But my dad was amazing. I remember saying to my dad, because he's very quiet, and especially around my mom, who was always very, very vocal, Dad would be very quiet. And she had this habit where she'd give me this whole long thing, and then she would say, and Frank agrees with me, right? Don't you, Frank? Frank's my dad's name. And half the time my dad would be like, huh, what? So, but his opinion has always really deeply mattered to me. We've been just immeasurably close my entire life. And so I said to him, I said, what do you really think about this? And he said, look, he said, in 25 years, I was 25 at the time, he said, in 25 years, you've never made a decision that I thought was the wrong decision. He said, I don't understand this decision. Doesn't make any sense to me. But who am I to assume that you've suddenly started making wrong decisions? Now imagine what that took for the father of a 25-year-old who's just announced she's stopping her PhD program and she's going to go, become a celibate nun in an ashram in India. He didn't understand. It didn't make sense. But he knew me. And he had love and faith and respect in me. And that's very difficult. But the universe has offered you a very difficult set of choices. One choice is you don't have a meaningful relationship, or in some cases a relationship at all, with your children or with one of your children because of the choices they're making. And the other option is you go on a very deep, personal deep dive to that source of love inside of you that may not love her choices, it may not love her decisions, it may not love her values, but that loves the core of her and supports the core of her and embraces the core of her. And that's really all you can do. You're not going to change her. Now all you get to do is love and support her anyway. And realize, okay, it was a peach seed. I was doing apple dances and apple prayers, and we're all apples, and I have no idea how we got this peach seed, but nonetheless, it's a peach seed. Okay. Can I learn to enjoy peaches? Can I learn to make peach pie? Can I learn to see the value in peaches, even though it's not what I thought I wanted or what I thought we were going to get? And that's probably the most difficult but powerful opportunity that as parents we have. And it'll crack your heart open. You may break it a little to crack it open. But ultimately that's the point of life, is to have our hearts that are open as they get bigger and bigger and bigger and able to embrace more and more. Other questions? Yes.
Pranam Sadhviji. Actually, my question is a little bit related to the first question about the surrender. Sometimes you know that something is strongly part of your dharma, but then mind gets involved and fear appears. In those moments, what should you do? You should just let it be till it goes away by itself, or you should use your skills and surrender the result. What's your opinion? Thank you.
So when fear arises, it's a signal. That's all fear is. Fear is a signal inside of us to be careful. We don't have to act on it. It's a very, very, very basic signal. It's one of the most basics. I mean, if you go back through our evolutionary history, go back hundreds of millions of years ago, all of our ancestors, back not necessarily to the amoeba, but go back to life in the ocean even. Even before we got on land, there was fear. All animals have a sense of fear. It's what actually keeps them alive. Now it's better developed in the higher developed animals. But that sense of fear, try to kill a mosquito as it flies around your room. What does it do? The moment it realizes you're trying to kill it, it flies away. It doesn't want to be killed. Try to kill an ant. The tiniest, tiniest little creatures have a sense of fear. It's just a very, very, very basic central nervous system response. We were talking the other night about sometimes it arises in response to a wild animal. Sometimes it arises in response to fear of being embarrassed, fear of humiliation, fear of failure. But fear itself is just an internal signal. Now this is where our intellect comes in. This is where our buddhi comes in. This is where our gyan comes in, our wisdom. This is where our vivek comes in, power of discrimination. And that's when we decide, okay, this is a fear that's worth listening to. I can't swim. They've invited me to go out on this boat ride. Looks like a really stormy day. They don't have life jackets. The guy who's steering the boat appears very drunk. And something inside you just signals, maybe not to get on the boat. And that's when you stop and you just listen. Is this an internal, intuitive instinct speaking to protect yourself? But then there's other times where you have, as you say, a sense that something really is your dharma. And you know you're supposed to do it. Or you feel you're supposed to do it. But what if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if you are made a fool? What if everyone laughs? Well, those are the sorts of risks that I'm always in favor of taking. No one ever said that fulfilling your dharma was going to be easy. For me, I always go back to the Bhagavad Gita. It's this very precious, very short, 700 short verses of answers to literally every question that ever arises. And you think about the teachings in the Gita from Bhagwan Krishna to Arjuna. Arjuna was afraid. The Gita begins in the middle of the war of the Mahabharata. Arjuna is saying essentially, the hair is standing up on end. I am so afraid. Literally, my hair is standing up on end. I don't want to do this. And Bhagwan Krishna goes into the next 700 verses about why, even in the face of fear, this is Arjuna's dharma. He must do it. He has no idea what the outcome is. Bhagwan Krishna does not give him a, spoiler alert, don't worry, you'll be fine. What he does instead is he helps him understand that, yeah, you might fail, you might die, you might lose everything, but ultimately to not fulfill your dharma is the greatest loss of them all. And so when that fear arises, typically it's a fear we're supposed to either work through or simply create enough space in us that says, okay, I get it, you're here to stay. No affirmations, no anything I tell myself is going to make this fear go away. All right, you're here to stay. But so am I. So is my dharma. So is my courage. So instead of working to necessarily try to push away the fear, just work on the other way. Build up your courage. The word courage comes from the same root as the French word cœur, which means heart. Courage is about being open-hearted. Open your heart to that flow of the divine through you, to that which you know you are supposed to be doing. And then do it. And if there are ways to do it that are more skillful than other ways, by all means choose them. Courage doesn't mean recklessness. Fearlessness and recklessness are two totally different things. A lot of times we think that to be fearless means that we should be reckless, be stupid, take all your money, invest it in one stock, jump off a rooftop while you chant a mantra about having wings and flying, right? That's not what courage means. Courage means my heart is open to the presence of the divine in me. And therefore, I move forward in my dharma. Not knowing what's going to happen, but knowing that I will be okay. Because I am moving in my dharma. And that's the only thing you can be assured of, is that at least at the end of the day, you don't find yourself having been very safe, but not having fulfilled your dharma. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. We'll be gathering in this garden, I think, from now. It's very nice. It's very spacious, somewhat quieter. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening and a beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And so much love to you all.